Weekly Standard here at the premiere of Atlas Shrugged. He said he hadn't read it in a long time, but he read it a long time ago. So we'd like to pick his brains on what is the view that Atlas Shrugged sheds on how the government should relate to the citizens. What is the relationship between the citizens and the government according to Ayn Rand?
With Ayn Rand, it should be almost non-existent. And I tend to agree with that. We're a long ways from that. But her view that, you know, even a stronger point I think she made was that the wealth creators in America and the world are the real heroes, not the people in government who want to tax the wealth creators, the innovators, the entrepreneurs. Those are the real heroes. Those are the people who have the high moral standing, even though currently in America they're held to have a lower moral standing.
Do you think that the government should redistribute its citizens' wealth by forcefully taking money from some citizens through taxes in order to provide goods and services for others?
I'm not against all taxation. I'm for taxation not to redistribute the wealth, which never really works anyway, except it has some bad effects. When you try to redistribute the wealth, you tend to squash innovation, entrepreneurship, and all the things that create wealth and progress in our society. Obviously, we have to tax so we can have a military, and so we can do the few things the government needs to do. Redistribute wealth, that's not one of the things that government needs to do.
Right, that's not in the Constitution either, right?
No, no.
So you would be against taxes that are for redistributing wealth.
Right.
But against, in favor of taxes that are used to protect the individual rights of the citizens.
Which would mean that we have our tax rate would be a fraction of what it is today, both for corporations and individuals.
Ayn Rand said that it was morally wrong to initiate physical force against people who haven't violated anybody's rights. That's what happens when you tax somebody in order to give the money to someone else, right?
I understand that, but more, I understand that that's her view. That's not quite my view.
Okay, but, you think it's okay?
I think it's okay to tax a certain amount for the few things the government needs to do.
No, I mean, in order to tax people that haven't violated anybody's rights in order to give the money to someone else.
Right.
We've already established the distinction. We're agreed that taxes that are used to protect the individual rights of the citizens, say like for an army or for police or this kind of thing, well, we need that because that's why we need a government. But that's one thing, and Medicaid, Medicare, foreign aid, farm subsidies, corporate subsidies, all these, Obamacare, all these other things.
Basically things that don't...
that has nothing to do with giving a service to the taxpayer. No. That has to do with redistributing
That has to do with abusing the taxpayer. But look, the truth is much of the taxation in this country and elsewhere is taxation to redistribute the wealth, to give money to people who didn't earn it and take it from money to people who did earn it. To take it from the wealth creators and stifle their initiative as a result, and give it to the people who haven't created wealth and when they don't deserve it or need it.
Could that be one of the reasons why we're having so much trouble in the economy?
And we have for a long time, indeed.
So if we got rid of all this redistribution of wealth, we could get back on track and get back to our glory days as a nation.
It would certainly help. I mean, the problem is that so many people, generally liberals and people on the left, don't believe that individual citizens respond to tax rates. Now, it's crazy. I mean, it's obvious if you tax somebody at 75%, they're not going to work very hard to earn that extra dollar. But liberals don't believe that. They believe that you can raise tax rates, tax more and more for any purpose, including redistributing the wealth, and it will not in any way curb the creation of wealth. Now, that's a crazy way to look at things, but that's the way most liberals look at it.
They don't realize that every dollar that the government takes is $1 less that the private sector can invest and employ according to the priorities of the people who produce that dollar.
Right, and of course that dollar's likely to, that dollar invested is likely to have a strong effect on the economy in the way that a dollar spent by the government will not. So
they think that the stimulus will create prosperity because they think it increases demand, but really stimulus doesn't increase demand, does it?
Well,
because you have to take the money from one person, the person who produced it, in order for the government to spend it. So he has $1 less, right?
Yeah,
so is there any actual real demand created when there's a stimulus?
Well, what you're saying is just because the government has never successfully stimulated demand by spending money in human history, that it can't happen? Well, it hasn't yet, and I don't think it ever will. But liberals act as if there hasn't been a test of this proposition. That government spending can, based on taxation, can create demand and create wealth. Well, for some reason, just because it's never worked ever, liberals always want to try again, as they're doing right now in America.
Ayn Rand had some views on what kind of laws you should have and what kind you shouldn't. Do you have a principle that permits you to differentiate when a law is proper and when it isn't?
That's a little hard for me, and I don't even, I read Atlas Shrugged when I was in the Army. I was a teenager. It's been a long time, but I haven't read it a second time, although I might. So I guess right off the top of my head, I do not have such a principle.
Could you consider this?
Good. I'm ready to go see the movie.
Okay.
Good.
It's good.
Hi. How are you?
Nice you can make, sir.
Yeah.
We're with John Aguilaro, the producer of the movie Atlas Shrugged. Businessman, poker player, and objectivist. Nice to see you here at the premiere.
Good to see you, Jan.
What is the central message